Hello,
Hello,
welcome to
guys.
Stellar Experiences again. After some disastrous broadcast attempt last week. Uh, welcome everybody who are here. How is everybody?
Yeah, hi.
It's good to be back here again.
Yeah, hi.
Let's hope. Okay, now we're live. I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like how do we all sound, guys? Just check out that first. Not have the same problem again.
Is everything okay in the stream? The sound, the visuals. If you can write, if there's something wrong, please let us know. So,
I think Carl is also here.
yeah,
Carl, how is the sound now? Like, can you tell us if everything is fine?
Yeah, Nazım says it's good.
All right, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody says it seems pretty okay.
Görkem says it's pretty okay. Great.
Okay, then we can start slowly, if you like.
Okay, no problem.
But maybe more people are coming. I'm also checking. So we are 19 people now, and I think more people will come in some moments. So again, we are here. As some of you remember, Okan and I were live broadcasting last year with the name Two Hemispheres and One Sky, because at that time Okan was in New Zealand and I was in, of course, Turkey. So we were in two different hemispheres. I think we had 3 lives, but then Okan came to Turkey and, he had some internet issues and stuff like that. Then we started Stellar Experiences, 3 of us. John also joined us. And I will leave you guys talk about Stellar Experiences a little, then we can slowly start.
Yeah, sure. Checking out the chat. One says hi.
Okay.
So talk about Stellar Experiences.
So we founded Stellar Experiences around one and a half almost years ago, but this plan actually dates back 2-3 years, let's say, because 3 of us, Mustafa, Okan, and I, had this idea of coming together and offering some various experiences, especially in Anatolia, like, since this area has the advantage that the light pollution is quite low, and and as you know, in Europe, it's not like, okay, the conditions are not ideal, or the light pollution is quite high compared to this area. So we said, why not? Let's start offering some experiences here. Let's discover the area. Let's take some astrophotos here. So that's how we actually founded Stellar Experiences, and our aim is to keep discovering new areas and offer astrophotographers stellar experiences. Basically.
It is not just an idea, and we have done 6 courses into 2020. So maybe Okan, you may want to talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. So at the beginning, we wanted to make a face-to-face course, just like a workshop, but it was more like a professional course. And we found a place, we set up everything, but then the pandemic situation, this coronavirus situation came up, and everything was kind of changed. And then we just started doing online courses. And in our first course, we did it was fully booked, and it was a great experience for all of us. And then we did a couple of online courses as well. at the end of this,
it was on May, by the way.
Yeah. And then in August, I believe, at the end of August, we had a face-to-face course in one of the darkest places of Turkey, which was actually really fun and enjoyable, and everybody had a great time in there. So we had great feedback from there, and we are trying to keep ourselves developing and getting better and better every time. So we are also planning to do a lot of courses 2021, but we just started the year. We have announced a couple of ones, so you can just check out our website, and you can find all the links just in the description below. Yes. Yeah.
And you will watch some scenes from that course in the intro. But before that, Rose is there, and we should say hi to Rose. Hi, Rose. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Welcome back, Rose.
Welcome
back, man.
So let's hope that you will not be here next week. So how are you, Rose?
Good, thank you. Good to be back. Since we spoke last week, I've managed to get some clear skies in the UK, so it's been good to get some imaging under my belt again after a pretty bad December. So everything's good in the world when you get some imaging done, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good to have you here.
Awesome.
Rose has been my friend. I think it's been around 2 years now, right, Rose? We've been talking on Instagram, Facebook, and exchanging ideas and info about astrophotography, which is always great because as we will speak, astrophotography is all about problem solving and constantly learning. So it is very good to have you as a friend.
Well, you too. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Okay, then maybe we can continue with the intro.
Right. Let's roll the intro and come back and start our program now.
Okay, we are back. So please feel free to write your questions and be respectful. We are reading the chat on the screen. And let's start. Hi again, Rose. So how did everything start with astrophotography? How and when?
Yeah, it's not the most natural thing to do in the UK, though. There's plenty of guys that do it. I've always been interested in space. Small child, I wanted to be an astronaut. Kind of always looking up at the sky and things like that. I was always interested in that type of thing. As I got older, I decided to go to university, do astronomy and astrophysics, just because it was an interest. I didn't have any desire to be a lawyer or a doctor or anything like that. I just thought I'll go and do something that interests me. So I did that, and then you get a real job, and then you have a bit of a life, and you forget about those type of passions and stuff like that. But I did manage to stumble across an image of Andromeda. I think it was a couple of years ago. It must be 3 years ago now or so. And was just kind of blown away that you could capture that with just a normal camera and a lens, and it kind of just reignited the passion for me that it's a way I could get back involved with astronomy. I live in a city and with light pollution and things like that. But I still thought, well, okay, let's give this a go. So that just seeing that one image, and then Andromeda's always been a target that I've loved and been interested in. I had a telescope as a younger boy, and I do recall kind of trying to hunt out Andromeda with this, large telescope to see it.
Have you ever been to a place where you can see it naked eye?
Yes,
Yeah.
I have now. Yeah, and as a child, my parents used to take me to Scotland 2 times a year for our kind of summer and Easter holidays. And a number of times that was to the islands off the west coast of Scotland, where there's literally no light pollution whatsoever. So as long as the sky's clear, which is incredibly rare in Scotland in itself, but when you're going twice a year, there's increasing odds.
Is that the island that you showed me once? What was that? That was that.
That was out of Hebrides, I think. Lewis and Harris, where it's like bottle 0 and whatever the lowest scale is. It is
bottle 1, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I kind of had a DSLR lying around. I had a very old kind of one of those, those kind of catch-all 28 to 200 zoom lenses that you can get, which are kit lens, so pretty useless. And start off with what you've got. I'd say that's the first bit of advice to anyone wanting to get involved with astrophotography. If you've got a camera and a lens and a tripod, you can start today. And if it's something that you're not going to get a world-beating image, but you can start today and you can see what you get. And if it intrigues you, if it interests you, if what you see kind of catches your imagination, I think that tells you, okay, this is something I can progress and kind of and get into, rather than saying, okay, I want to do astrophotography, I'm going to go and spend 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, whatever. Do you know what I mean? And then realizing actually it's not for me.
So did you shoot astrophotography with your 70 to 100 millimeter lens without having a tracker?
I did, yes. I got might still be on my Instagram. One of the very first images I've got on there is this one's I think it's a 35mm shot of a Andromeda, and it's something like 7-second subs from a static tripod stacked. I mean, it's nothing, but that's enough to still see Andromeda. Do you know what I mean? And kind of get something.
My first image was Andromeda, and I was shooting at 100 millimeter on a tripod, and I was using 1.5 seconds exposures, and every 10 exposure I was reframing, because Andromeda was moving, and then I think I took like 400 images and stacked.
That's crazy.
Your laptop or computer will not thank you for
that. Once you get that feeling, then you just keep going. Like, you can't stop. Like you said, once you're in, if you are interested, you know about it. Like,
exactly.
You notice it.
So once I realized, okay, I can do it. I'm liking it. I'm enjoying it. I want to do it more. Then, I did spend some money in a couple of different areas. First one was in a decent lens, and it's a lens that I still use today. And it's the Canon EFL 70 to 200mm f2.8, which compared to anything that I'd used prior to was just incredible quality. And the L's there for the kind of like the pro line of lenses from Canon. Mine was the original one, non-IS, kind of the standard one, second hand. So I got it as cheap as I could, with the knowledge that if I didn't get on, I could sell it and pretty much make the money back on it. And then a Star Adventurer from Skywatcher for a tracker, kind of like you say. If you're at 200mm, I think it's like half a second or a second or something is the maximum you can do from a tripod before you start trailing. So that allowed me quite quickly to get to 60, 120 second subs with a crop frame sensor, the Canon 450D, and that's 70 at 200 mil at 200. I mean, in hindsight, I probably should have got just a standard 200 mil lens, because I very rarely use it at anything other than 200 mil, but I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
I still recall that the first image that I got using a tracker, 2-minute sub with a Canon lens, I had it connected to my laptop via like a USB connection, and it just popping up on the screen and basically being able to see Andromeda in just that raw frame was just, I've basically been hooked ever since that very first image came in. And
that's the magical moment.
Totally, yeah, and everyone's got one, I think, because this hobby is madness in the main.
It is.
If you don't live in Chile or somewhere, where you guaranteed like 200, 300 days of clear sky, then you will go weeks and months of having this hobby. There's something that you really want to do, and you just can't do it. So you've got to be really interested and really wanting to do it to kind of stick with it, I think. So.
Ross.
Yeah.
Today our topic is going to be, I would say extreme wide field, because you like it. I also like it. And let's say wide field astrophotography with narrowband. So everyone, thinks and perceives that everything in space is so small. So everyone is like, the focal length of the lens or focal length of the telescope that they are using should be really, really high. But when they ask me, I always tell them, no, and you can start with wider fields, so shorter focal lengths, and this will give you ease at tracking. This will give you a lot more. It will be a lot easier. So, and I know that you also like wide field. Why did you choose wide field in the beginning? For instance, for me, it is like, when you're, let's say, hiking, you climb a hill and you want to see the next hill, what is behind the next hill. So for me, a wide field is like, okay, there's an object there, but there are other things around, like space is not only pitch black. So there are lots of things out there, like clouds, molecular clouds, there is IFN and everything. So I like to see those things. That's why I really like wide field. And what was the reason for you?
Yeah, I suppose it was, again, twofold. So like I said, all I had to image with at the beginning was a DSLR, a 70-200 mil lens, and a guide tracker. Do you know what I mean? We were, I got married the year that we kind of got into it, and so that that kind of costs. It's getting married is a hobby that is more expensive than astrophotography. So there was a question of, all I had was 200 mil as a max, so it is what it is. But also, the mindset that you said, I've taken an image of this. I think a lot of people then say, right, well, I want to get closer, I want to look deeper into space, kind of see the really small things. But my mindset was a bit different, and I wanted to try and get as good an image as possible with what I had. So it was about trying to making that very first image that I got. I was happy with it, but it wasn't incredible. And I wanted to say, how can I improve on it? What do I need to do to make that?
Yeah, by the way, Okan, if you can show us the first image, slide number 5. So this is Newcastle. And this is
actually, so that was my first proper astrophotography image with a tracker and a lens. And it's not. I don't think it's too bad, to be honest. I see
it is not. But one thing, this way Andromeda looks upside down to me.
Yeah, well, this has no perspective. But the way your eye wants to see it is the other way around, just because of the way that it's leaning, isn't it? But I did post it that way.
So tell us about this one, Ross. What was it?
So this was actually, I tell a lie, I did have other equipment. I did have a CLS filter in the train. Yes, this is from my back garden, which is bottle 7. I was using a CLS kind of broadband light pollution filter at the time. The problem with that is it cuts a lot of green and blue out of your, and it gives you a hue that is very hard to correct. And I've since kind of disowned light pollution filters. I'm not a big fan of them at all. That kind of the broadband sense of light pollution filters. So I either shoot with narrowband, which I know we're going to talk about, or just completely filterless with just a UV.
So was this from your backyard?
Yeah, that's bottle 7.
Yeah, that's perfect actually for bottle 6, right, where you are.
You said 7, right? Or
yeah, 7, 6, 7. I kind of it depends where I live. The southern horizon is a lot worse than the north. So it just depends which way you're looking as to whether it's probably a 6 or a 7. It's in that kind of range.
Wow. But how high was the Andromeda when you took?
Andromeda gets to a good height in the UK, so I can't remember exactly, but it would have been October, November when I imaged it. To about 50, 60 degrees.
That is a game changer, actually. If you are shooting near the horizon or somewhere above, above 40 degrees, is fantastic. Most of the time.
Totally different.
Yeah. So this is.
So let's also see the equipment. Slide number 3 and 4.
Yeah, this is pretty much. This is a recent image, but it's give or take what I started off with. That's the Canon 6D that's on there now, which is what I use now. But originally that was a Canon 450D, which is a very cheap camera. It's cheap, easy to modify. I had Astro modified it as well, so I've done it myself. I haven't modified my 6D. I like to use that kind of as it is as a stock DSLR. And to be honest, I'm not sure if you really need to astro modify. I think it helps when you're shooting from light polluted skies, because you will lose some of that really faint hydrogen alpha signal in the light pollution. If you're shooting from dark, I really, I've shot some recent images with that stock 6D with some really good hydrogen.
But if you're not on narrowband, of course.
Yeah. So this for me, I'd say is a perfect setup for a beginner. Let's say most people have got a DSLR lying around or a mirrorless, any kind of camera that allows you to kind of set the shutter to bulb and kind of adjust the settings. The tracker, they're easy to set up. You start learning about, there's obviously a counterweight on there to kind of balance things out, and you've got to learn about the balance. You've got to learn about polar alignment of the mount. It's all lessons that at this focal length, at this kind of tolerance, are much easier to learn in this setup, and then you take that learning on to the kind of next levels, rather than start with something like a C14. I mean, you've got to be crazy to start with that type of thing, but you know what I mean. Something with a really big focal length. If it's not something you're familiar with, it's going to take you a lot of time to get even a passable image, I think. Whereas with this, I think as long as you've got a good idea what it is you're trying to do, you should get an image. You should be able to get something on your kind of very first goal, and that'll encourage you to get you out the door the next time. Because if all you do is get nothing and frustration, then that's when people, I think, start to lose a bit of interest. But you can help by learning those lessons and learning as you go, because you're going to have to learn a lot of lessons in astrophotography.
So while you were did you have a role model when you started this hobby, or how?
I wouldn't say a role model. I was I was interested to see what I could get, and to really try and get as good as I could get. But I think processing is a bit that's a little bit unusual if you've done no kind of photo editing before. So Trevor Jones's Astro Backyard videos, I used Photoshop at the time and pretty much still use it today. I do use some other programs, but Although most of the guys use Xperiences, it's not really something I use. I still stick to Photoshop, and he is pretty much a Photoshop guy as well. So his videos give me a good kind of direction to follow early on, kind of steps to take, things to look at, things to try and get an idea on. That was a good framework, and I think they've obviously been a great framework for a lot of people. I'm sure that'll kind of resonate with a lot of people that those videos help them get going. So it definitely helped kind of point me in the right direction. Some of those lessons.
We will come to that part. About the softwares, but are you using any action set with Photoshop?
I use
Astro Tools.
Yeah, I think that's the one, the Astro Tools. No, I don't use many of them, but I suppose I've tried all in the past. But there's one or two that I'll fall back on that are in my workflow. I use Russell Crowe's Gradient Exterminator as well.
Yeah, that is very good one and very essential one.
Yeah, because I think as a beginner, you've got to worry about three things really to get an astro image. Once you've stacked your image, so let's say you can stack an image in DSS. Beyond that, you basically need to do a gradient extraction, color calibration, and a stretch of that data. And once you've done that, you've got an image at least. Do you know what I mean? So you might want to do other things, but if you can do those three things relatively well, you've got yourself an image. And gradient extraction is probably the most difficult thing to do if you don't have something like Xperiences or
definitely.
There are that I use Cyril quite a lot, which is a free
processing
software. And it's got a lot of things that I don't like. I don't like stacking in it. I'm not a big fan of it, but its gradient extraction tool is pretty good once you get used to it and working with it, and it's got a photometric color calibration. So if you're shooting an RGB, you can get that kind of, where it looks at your stars and compares them with what color it believes they should be, and does that automatic correction. So those two things, and then with a stretch out of Cyril, that can give you that base image that you can then put into Photoshop. Because if you try and do all those three things in Photoshop yourself, you really struggle to get continuity. So from one image to the next, they're going to look very different because everything's freehand. You're doing everything. Where Cyril gives free kind of ability to create a kind of consistent starting point for your processing, which I think is really important to try and produce something that.
Okay, like I said, we will come back to this. But if we can go to again the equipment slide, I want to ask. Of course, there are similar mounts like this one. This is Skywatcher Star Adventure, but there are others. What is the pros and cons for these type of mounts? Because I know that you also have another mount, which is a go-to mount.
Yeah,
it is Ioptron CM25, right? Yeah. So what is good with this one and what is bad?
The beauty of a mount like this is, well, it's twofold. One, if you stick your head out of your back garden door and see that it's clear, you can be imaging with one of these within about 5 minutes. So they're quick to set up. You've got no real, all you've got to do is throw it out on a tripod, polar align it. Once you know how to do that, that's a 30-second process. And then, frame things up and away you go. So, they're really quick, really handy. You can just have that rested by the back door. It doesn't take up a lot of space. The second thing is portability. So if you want to go, up the side of a hill or to a beach or somewhere kind of that isn't your back garden and is a little bit harder to get to, then, quite easily put that in your rucksack. That kit there I've carried around in a rucksack, no problems whatsoever. So I think they're the two main benefits of it. The drawback of these is obviously, for me, I think a lot of people try and get too much out of their mount. There's obviously the kind of sexier things to put your money into are the optics and the camera.
Yeah.
You see a lot of people, I think, that, in my opinion, should have spent a little bit more money on the mount, because your mount is your platform hold your kit kind of against this, against your target. And if you don't get the right mount for the weight of kit that you're putting on it, then again you're just inviting frustration, kind of having to throw away subs because of star trailing and things like that. So the disadvantage is it can only carry I think a £5 limit, but it's designed for that setup. It's designed for a camera and a lens. It's not really designed to take small telescopes and that type of thing. So I think if you use it within its what it was.
Well, but there are people using with small refractors.
Yeah, to be, I see people get really good results, and that's fair play to them, and if that's what they want to do.
Yeah, the key is there is to get the best polar alignment. If you can polar align very well, then there you go. You can deal with those type of telescopes, and they are also wide field ones. They have, like, let's say my scope is 350 millimeter focal length, so you can go up to 120 second exposures easily if you can polar align well.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
I also have one of these, the Star Adventure. Actually, it was Mustafa's, and then I got it from him.
Yeah.
Like we talked last time. And the thing is, like you said, since it's portable, I can just carry it everywhere because I cannot set it up in my backyard. It's the light pollution here is quite terrible, kind of. So I always have to carry it, but it's no big deal since it's nothing to. I can just take it out and carry.
Yeah, to be honest, I regret selling it. Yeah, I mean, I'm
glad you
forward
sold
to. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to selling it to you, but I regret that selling it because now I don't have any portable equipment, and because I still have Samyang or Rokinon 135 millimeter lens, and of course I can put it on my current mount, but whenever the weather is nice, we go for the scope. But I would like to have a mount like this, and I think I'm going to buy one very soon. So I think let's go deeper. And today topic was narrowband. So if you can have a look at the slide number 6. Slide number 6. This is one of your amazing images, Ross. I really love it.
This is
This is obviously made quite a bit of a step change. Yes, obviously, I've got interested and then spent a little bit of money elsewhere. So yeah, this is Cygnus, not quite as a whole, but almost there. Through a Sigma Art 35mm lens with a ZWO ASI 1600 MC, so that's the color version of that camera, with a tri-band narrowband filter in between them. So this was actually shot in early summer in the UK, so this was actually taken through twilight. It wasn't fully dark from home, so kind of bottle 6, bottle 7 plus twilight. But the band passes on that tri-band are so narrow that I was still able to get good enough kind of certainly the hydrogen alpha was very strong, but even good enough oxygen 3, which is the kind of green bluer areas to kind of give that contrast in that image.
Yeah. But before that, Rose, let's go to number 13. So maybe there might be people who don't know what narrowband, what broadband is. If you can tell what they are, then we can go deeper in narrowband imaging.
Yeah, so you've got kind of like broadband filters. So that what it means by broadband is it's letting through broad volume of the kind of light spectrum for your camera to kind of image. So a light pollution filter is a typical example of a broadband filter. It's cutting out certain lines because of where light pollution emits, and on sodium lamps on mercury lights happens at certain areas in the spectrum. So it cuts those out, but allows the broader kind of elements to go through. So you get a lot of light coming through. Intermediate band, I don't think there's that many of for our kind of purposes, but there's classification there for 11 to 60 nanometers of light. Narrowband, it's saying has typically kind of less than equal to 10 nanometers. I'd probably say 12. I think a generation or two ago, in terms of filters, I think a 12 nanometer kind of hydrogen alpha filter was fairly typical. So it's where kind of what you're basically doing is isolating one particular band of kind of emission. In a lot of examples, that's like hydrogen alpha, oxygen 3, and sodium 2 kind of emission lines are the three main ones that kind of make the hub and that type of stuff. So the lower you go, the more you can kind of isolate just that emission line and cut out the kind of background light. So you just increase the contrast as you go. So from a 12 nanometer, you can then get into the kind of 8 to 7 nanometers down to, I think, chroma do 5 and 3. You might even be able to get 3 nanometers now. Get those really ultra high contrast elements where you effectively, the only light coming in is that emission, and there's no band whatsoever. So yeah, that's not band. Basically, you're isolating individual emission lines from space, basically, and just taking a picture of that. So that previous image is basically an image of the oxygen and the hydrogen alpha from Cygnus, and just those two.
Yeah, if you can go back to that one, Okan. 6, yeah. So what we are looking at here is, here. So we see, the black space and blue color and reddish orangish color. So here we are actually looking at some hydrogen alpha. Hydrogen alpha is like hydrogen atoms which are hydrogen atoms which are I cannot get the word. Because of it, energetic star, hydrogen atoms are ionized. Yeah, that's the word looking for. And they emit this light, which is actually 656 nanometers. And also the blues are oxygen 3 emission. And I don't know if you want to add something to this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a little bit of sulfur in there and hydrogen beta, because the filter does pass those lines as well. But the two that I would imagine are the most dominant in this image will be the two that you've mentioned, the O3 and the HA. So yeah, I'm hoping to get something similar for Cephas, but I haven't got around to doing it as of yet. So yeah, that would be good.
So if you can go to 11. 11. Slide number 11. Yes, this one. So this is your filter.
Yes, yeah. Radiant triad ultra. So the benefit of this and filters probably like the Extreme.
Yeah. So let's go to 12.
Yeah. A lot of the previous versions, you'd get a good band pass on hydrogen alpha, so you'd have, say, probably a 12 nanometer band pass for HA. But what they tended to do for the O3 and the hydrogen betas, you'd have a broader band pass, probably like a 30 or 35 nanometer band pass to kind of cover those two as one band pass. And the problem with doing that is if you image anywhere, so something like the L enhancers is a good example of that. That's exactly how that does that. And that broader bandpass will still pass, light pollution, or still pass moon kind of light to a pretty high degree because of that wide bandpass there.
Yeah, but
so
let's talk about bandpass in the beginning. So number 14, Okan, because we are talking about 5 nanometer, 7 nanometer bandpass. What is this bandpass? And we also have to talk about FWHM, full width at half maximum. So what are these things, Ross?
It's a good question. So the bandpass, like you say, kind of hydrogen alpha or a particular emission happens at a very particular point. So you get a bandpass to kind of cover that emission line. So you've got a little bit of wiggle room on either side. So you'll pass through some extra light. Now you need the wiggle room because, well, one, it's very expensive to make, small band passes. So I'm sure there's economics in it. But secondly, you get spectral shift depending on how fast your optical system is. So something like RASA at f2, you can't use an extreme really, because the hydrogen alpha line is shifted outside of the bandpass of that 7 nanometers. So there's a little bit of kind of matching your optical system to
filter.
Relevant filter for your for what you're using. But I think for most people it'll come down to cost. So the higher cost gives you a lower bandpass, will give you better contrast in your final image because you're cutting out more and more of the excess kind of waste light that you're not trying to image, and isolating more and more of, well, not more and more, but you're isolating that emission line and cutting out the waste, so you'll get a better contrast.
Yeah. So like here, we are seeing a graph here. Yes. If you can show these two arrows, Okan, not those ones. Yeah, these ones. So this is actually the hydrogen alpha emission at 656 nanometer. So this is again, if you can show FWHM, this is the halfway of the peak. So the width of this peak at half of the peak is called full width half maximum. So this value gives us the 6 nanometer, 7 nanometer bandpass. So this means you are receiving, let's say, if your filter is 5 nanometer bandpass, 2.5 millimeter on the right, 2.5 millimeter on the left. Yeah. So this means you are still receiving other lights other than the desired lights in this one, which is hydrogen alpha. So yeah, please go on, Ross.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it for this one. If you want to go back to the
so
the bandpass.
12.
Yeah, so let's say these two are good examples of filters that have kind of narrow band passes for each of the emission lines that you're trying to image. So you get strong contrast in both the oxygen, the hydrogen alpha. The radiant does band passes for hydrogen beta and the sulfur, but when you're imaging with a color camera, which obviously these are designed for, the S2 is red, the hydrogen alpha is red. So most targets that you will ever image, you're not going to see any sulfur because it's going to get washed out by the hydrogen alpha. So although it's there, and there is some specific targets where you can get that pure S2, that's basically a hydrogen alpha filter. Your camera then records O3 in green and in blue, in the green and blue channels. And then hydrogen beta is kind of just in blue. So that oxygen is right at the crossover for where your color camera will pass that light into both the kind of green side of the pixels and the blue pixels or the blue filter pixels. So and that's kind of really important to understand that, firstly, that you're capturing these different elements in your color camera in different areas. So when you see your final image, that you understand that obviously the hydrogen alpha is in the red channel, that you have a mix of channels for your O3, and then you can then decide what it is that you want to do with it. What's interesting about this type of imaging with color cameras is obviously most people, when you've got a color camera, what you start imaging is RGB imaging, whether that's just in your back garden with the light pollution or whether you travel at dark sky sites. So you learn to process in a particular way. And when you first get this type of thing, you process it the exact same way. And what you end up with most targets is a very red image, because hydrogen is so dominant in the night sky. Like, so if you get if you see like an 8mm image of the sky, the blobs are all red. You don't get orange. You don't get this kind of O2. You don't get particularly strong areas of that. The O3. Yeah. So hydrogen alpha is strong. So you produce images that are in the main red with perhaps a little bit of kind of lighter red in other areas where the O3 is coming through. So what you have to do in that particular example of the Cygnus image prior is you have to treat the individual channels almost like independent images. So you might stretch your hydrogen alpha to a much less degree than you would the O3, because you need to try and balance out the kind of the relative strength of your emission of the data in your post processing. So you push the kind of green and the blue channels out a little bit further to kind of bring them up, to kind of truly get the narrowband is false color. That's not what it looks like in the night sky. All mono imaging is pretty much false color. It's about looking at the data that you've got in and how you can best represent it in a color image to kind of show contrast between the two areas. So that Cygnus image, the O3 is being pushed significantly further than hydrogen alpha in order to just make it be seen in the first place. Otherwise, that's just a red image left to its natural devices.
Yeah, because O3 is really weak when H alpha is very dominant. It's always the case. And even S2 is, sulfur is even weaker than O3. Yeah.
I mean, there's literally one target in the night sky, I'd say. I might be wrong on that, but certainly wide field targets where, and that's the Veil in Cygnus, where you've probably got a stronger signal in O3 as you have in HA. That's incredibly rare. Most targets are HA incredibly dominant. So you a little bit of work.
And you actually said it while talking, but we have to underline that there are actually two types of narrowband imaging. And what you're doing is with color cameras, either with DSLR or dedicated astro camera, but both are colored cameras. So we call them OSC, or one-shot color cameras. So they are actually doing the same thing, but in different ways. If you have mono camera, you have narrowband filters for these three narrowband bandwidths, which are H alpha, O3, and sulfur 2. And but here, as you are shooting color, you have only one filter cutting the other, emission lines, but trying to get only O3 and H alpha in this example. For instance, your filter, Radiant Triad, is the aim of this filter is to get only H alpha and O3. And Optolong L Extreme is very similar to this one, actually. Right? I don't know if you have any
I've seen some images that are pretty similar. So yeah, obviously it doesn't have a band passes for the hydrogen beta or the S2. It is just the O3 and HA, but like in most targets, you're not going to tell the difference.
Yeah.
But I've certainly seen some very, very good images, very similar images from that filter to the Radian, and it's certainly significantly cheaper. So yeah, it looks like, you know, a good filter to use. I mean, the reason I use it is a couple of factors really. One, light pollution. Obviously, it's only letting through you know, those kind of emission lines. So I can shoot this from my back garden and get some. Let's say that previous image was not only light pollution but through twilight, kind of not full as well. So, you know, I can image pretty much in any conditions. With a full moon, I hear a lot of people say, you know, this will filter out full moon as well, and that's broadly true of hydrogen alpha. Hydrogen alpha, you can pretty much do anything with it, and you'll only get that emission line. But the O3 line is susceptible, I find, to both light pollution, particularly white LEDs, which is obviously more and more prominent, you know, across the world really, but certainly, you know, in Europe and in North America. And also the full moon. You will get a full moon gradient in your O3 line, regardless of what you use. But you know, nothing that you can't process.
Yeah,
so it means,
I recently have got the L-Extreme, but as you know, I didn't have any time to use it yet. I tested once, but like you said, it was in full moon, and the target I was trying to shoot was so close to full moon. So I had terrible gradients in the background, so it's almost impossible to remove. And of course, there was halo around the stars, especially in the O3 channel, blue channel, and green channel. So yeah, you have to use it, you know, not in the full moon. And if you are using in the full moon, you should pick a target a little bit further from full moon.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So the reason is mainly because of all those things, and then add to that, you know, being in the UK and we have bad weather, I can't be that picky when it is clear. Do you know what I mean? If it's clear and I want to image, then I need something whereby, like I say, if it's new moon, which you know, let's be honest, it's never clear at new moon, very rarely. But if it is, you know, those are the days I want to get RGB. But then if the moon is up and it's clear, then, you know, I can use this filter to still collect good data that I can either just process in its own right to get almost like a mono style image, or combine with RGB to create, you know, a HA RGB image or something along those lines. But it gives me options then further down the line to create images with different data sets. So I get asked why I don't go mono, and I think there's a couple of reasons. One is filters like this allow me to get certainly not mono quality, because there's a whole different kind of talk about, you know, the resolution differences between a color camera and a mono camera and the noise and all the rest of that. But I can get something similar. I like to create images. You know, I'm not, let's say with the UK weather, I don't want to spend potentially, you know, 4, 5, 6 imaging nights trying to create a mono image with, you know, the different filters and taking different calibration files and all the rest of it. When, let's say, if the weather turns against you, which it often does in the UK, then I just have to create a lower stack than I wanted to. So yeah, it's a kind of personal choice. A lot of people go mono, and I would like to eventually, but I like what I can create currently with this, you know, this type of filter. This filter technology is really useful for like polluted skies in a color camera.
So if you can go to number 15, Okan. Yeah. So this is like summary of narrowband imaging. What would you say about it?
I think, you know, it's like I said, it just gives you the main point to shoot narrowband. One, to highlight, you know, the emission structures that are in the sky. So things like, you know, Cygnus is a perfect example. The image that we just showed there, you know, that area is straight through the Milky Milky Way. If you shoot that area on RGB, it's a sea of stars. You know, there's any length of time there, you just get a massive star field, and that can be really difficult to process down to get the emission nebula behind it, because narrowband kind of is just concentrating on that, but only allows the light from that particular band pass through. Then obviously it lets starlight through at that's coming through at that range as well, but it's significantly weaker. Your starlight is significantly weaker because it's cut out all the light that's being emitted elsewhere. So you get much smaller stars, get much better kind of contrast then to your emission. So you've got better data to try and isolate and show that kind of nebulosity of an area, and cut that kind of stars backwards, so you get that better pop basically. Gives you options. Gives you a way that you can shoot if you have bad skies. It gives you a way you can shoot if you've got a moon. So it just gives you some different options. And I think with this hobby, you need options, because shooting just RGB does limit you, because you really do it well when
you get the full flexibility, like you get
exactly. If it's clear,
especially depending on the region that you live, right?
Yeah. So if you can go to number 10. And also, I actually saw, I'm not looking at the chat, but I saw some questions about narrowband imaging. So before we move on, because it has been already almost an hour, before we move on, we have to look at those questions. And this is also one of your recent images, Ross. And it is very short integration, and like we say, you're the short stack club prime minister. Yeah.
This is I'd hope to get. I'd moved over to Nina, which is an acquisition software. I was using APT prior to that, so I wanted a bit of a test. Had some clear sky. I was hoping for 3 hours of clear sky, where I could do a 2-image mosaic, which is what this is. So the first image is kind of the Heart Nebula, and the second one is the Soul Nebula that sits above it there. And then I've joined them both together. Now, the UK weather being what it was, I managed to get 90 minutes on the Heart, but then the weather changed as soon as I moved to the Soul Nebula, so I only got 16 minutes on the Soul Nebula. So I decided to pick 16 minutes for the Heart as well and kind of build it. So this is a 32-minute image spread across 2 panes in narrowband of the Heart and Soul. So this is kind of what I was talking about. If you process this normally, this is basically red. You get a little bit of a kind of pink color in the middle of the Heart, a little bit of a kind of pinky color in the middle of the Soul. Yeah. But you have to push the kind of the green and the blue channel, the oxygen data, to kind of get some blue and yellows kind of coming through in this. So, but this is an example of what you can get. So let's say this is 30 minutes worth of narrowband in bottle 7, my back garden with a color camera. And although you could get a better image than this with mono, definitely. I wouldn't image it this way. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't have had an image at the end of the day, because what you would choose to do is you would say, right, I'm going to get 3 hours. You know, even if you cut it in your 3 hours, you'd say I'd get an hour and a half of hydrogen alpha, and then an hour and a half of O3, and I'd still have been cut short. And maybe I could have got something similar, but I like to create that kind of image at the end of it. You know, do you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't set out to just get an hour and a half. I'd have probably said, right, I want to get 5 hours hydrogen. You know, to make a proper image, I'll get 5 hours of each. And what would have happened is I would have timed out on the hydrogen alpha, and then I'd have to go away and come back another day to get the O3. Yeah, I just prefer producing an image at the end of the day. I'm a bit greedy like that. I like to get. It's one thing collecting data. I enjoy collecting data, but I enjoy processing more. I enjoy kind of creating the images more at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm happy. This is actually one of the ones that shows some of the S2 at the very bottom of the Heart Nebula. Literally at the very bottom of that frame, there is an an S2 structure that if you've just got a HA filter, it doesn't appear in there. So it's literally one of the only targets that I've noticed where there's some sulfur come through on it. But yeah.
So
yeah.
I just saw chat. Ben is also watching, and he's laughing about short stack PM. And he, I remember we was talking, and he is the vice president of the short stack club. Yeah. So
I think, it doesn't matter what you've got. I think. Can you create better images with a 10-hour stack? Of course you can. Definitely you can. But that doesn't mean that you can't make something that's worth looking at out of half an hour's worth of data. And you learn lessons along the way. Do you know what I mean? The noise is extreme. So
which is normal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just learn different things. I've had to find different ways to kind of process that out, or to try and mask it for this type of image. And to then be able to post something that doesn't look like a complete mess. But I think people get hung up on trying to post perfection, and that's not. I think that's what this is. It should be, as a hobby. It should just be about enjoying yourself, producing something that you enjoy looking at. If you want to share that with others, but just keep doing this for your own reasons. Yeah, but if you're looking for perfection, then fine, crack on. It's just that's not. I am trying to get the best I can, but I'll also try and get the best I can get out of a 30-minute image if that's all I've got.
Yeah, of course. I always say, first of all, you have to know your limits. You have to know limits of your equipment. And, of course, there is a certain amount of time that you can shoot and stack. So you should know what you can bring out of that data. So, like you said, instead of looking for the perfect image, I believe no image is perfect, even the images taken by Hubble or something, because there are problems, there are noise everywhere. It is inevitable. So you should get what you can get. So let's have a look at the questions. Okan.
All right.
Welcome back.
Yeah, hello guys. Been a long time. Right, which one we should start with? I guess from the beginning would be better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Up to you.
And let's see. Yeah, Carl Pereira asked at the beginning, he was asking, how long have you been doing astrophotography, Ross?
I probably started in August 2018, give or take. Maybe it's July or August, that kind of the end of the summer, start of autumn. So what's that? Just over 2.25 years, something like that. Not too long, but
yeah, pretty decent results for that amount of time, man.
Yeah.
And actually, we will come to that point, but he has an awards, and he was doing astrophotography for 6 months already, right, Ross? When he got the awards. So we will come to that. But let's continue with the questions. Ben says Bortle 0, where you can see HA with your eyes. Yeah, go on. Okay.
All right.
Please.
See the next one. Well, there are a lot of questions, and it's like hard to track all of them.
I'm also seeing it. I can read if you like.
Okay, it will be better, if you could keep track on it.
Robin said, my tracker and tripod is the most expensive garden ornament. It's not a question, but it's funny.
Yeah, true story, actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so let's see. CLS was the worst Astro purchase I ever made, says Ben. Yeah, but I don't know which CLS was that, but and also where you're using it. Actually, I have IDAS, IDAS, um, IDAS one, and I really like it. I even use it at Bortle 3 because it
What do
really
you do with the
helps.
light pollution filter in Bortle 3, for God's sake?
Yeah, no, I use it I use it as a nebula enhancer.
Trust.
So
Right, yeah.
it makes a lot of difference. So
I mean, personally, I'm not a big fan of broadband filter, like pollution filters. I think they give you more problems than they solve. They give you color calibration issues. I've got an Alpro filter that gives you real weird cast, kind of green and magenta, kind of in different areas of the images. That is a nightmare to process out. I just think if you just capture the light as it comes, yes, you'll get light pollution, but I think that's almost easier to process out than some of the issues that the light pollution filters give you. So, and by definition, it's cutting the light out. Yeah, it's going to get rid of some of the bad light, but because of broadband kind of white LEDs now, it's impossible to kind of mask out light pollution the way perhaps it was 10, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You're not cutting out the light pollution anyway. And you're cutting out some of the actual light that you're trying to capture. So I think personally, I find it gives me more problems than it solves.
Yeah. Yeah, Ben says, I'd rather just not shoot with one. I am under Bortle 5, so it is not too bad. And Aslı says, waiting for my MSM rotator to give it a try. Yeah. And Hurts neck, let's see if there's a question. Serial post-processing is good. I used this before Photoshop. But
I have one question in here, if you're right.
Okay, yeah,
Okay,
please.
so BBRO photo asked, how come all three filters seem to be more susceptible to halos than HI? Is it them just allowing more starlight through, or is it manufacturing or coating?
Do you have an idea, Ross?
Read the question again, sorry.
How come all three filters seems to be more susceptible to halos, HI, H alpha?
I've got no idea is the honest answer on that one. It does seem to be. I think you mentioned it yourself, Mustafa, that you had halos in the 4-3 area for your when you tested it with the moonlight. I'm not entirely sure why that is, to be perfectly honest, but I often have issues. If HA is so easy to kind of red channel comes out. It's really good contrast. You can kind of deal with that. Then you look at your green.
Always good SNR. Yeah.
But then I think there'll be an element where you have to push it harder. So when you're pushing any data harder, you're going to start introducing some of the artifacts and issues with it. So you don't need to push HA that hard in order to get the information that you want to see. But because that O3, you are kind of pushing it. Perhaps you're just kind of bringing forward some of the issues that are there in all of your data, but you're just bringing them more to the front. I don't know is the honest answer.
Yeah, and as far as I know, mono camera owners shoot O3 in shorter exposures comparing to H alpha to avoid those effects. So because once you get longer exposures, you have halos and all those unwanted things a lot more than normal. Mujahid says, my question is not technical. Is Mr. Clark have different strange story when taking astrophotos? Maybe an animal attack like this. Have you ever been attacked, Ross?
No, I haven't, thankfully. Christ, that would be grim.
Yeah.
I've always been quite lucky a dark sky site is a kind of public car park, really. So it's always a little bit weird when you're obviously in a car park by yourself in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere, with your Astro gear set up. It's not like you can just jump in the car and drive away if something bad happens because you've got all your kit set up. But it is something I think about. But thankfully, I've never had any issues. I've kind of found, it's other astrophotographers I've bumped into actually, because who else is going to be out? It's 2 o'clock in the morning in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, I think it's something to be. It is something I'm mindful about. I think it's something you have to think about when, obviously, if you're in your back garden, it's not a problem. But if you are going to travel with dark side, I do think you have to consider where it is you're going, where you're going to set up, what are you going to, put yourself in danger, basically. And it's something you should give some thought before you go out, definitely.
Yeah.
Gökhan Erdem also asked one. He's asking, which one do you enjoy the most, the post-production part or the taking picture?
Post. Definitely post. I've always been, since I started this, kind of been obsessed with post-processing. So it's kind of something I do most days. I've reprocessed images, multiple times. One is a kind of to try new ideas, try new techniques. There's always new things that you can test or try or learn from, or you learn something new and you go, I wonder if that'll work with this old data set that I took. I wonder if I can get something out of that. So a lot of what I'd say are my best examples of images are definitely on the first process. It's normally like the third, fourth, maybe even fifth version of it, perhaps even more. I know I've got a elephant trunk nebula data set that I've processed at least 10 times, and the best one is the last one.
Yeah, so far.
Always like that.
Number 11. So yeah, there's always, I don't think you should ever draw a line under an image and say that's perfect, because to your point earlier, Mustafa, nothing's perfect. There's always something else to try, or some other way of taking it. So yeah, try and keep an open mind, try and try new things. I haven't got a really rigid routine that I apply to images. And I suppose with a couple of years of post-processing that, I can look at an image and say, well, I think I need to do this to it, and I'll do that to it and see where it goes. But if that doesn't look right to me, then I'm happy enough to start again and take it in a different direction. I think you just got to keep experimenting, keep learning. But you have to enjoy that process, otherwise.
It's never ending learning process. I mean, everything in astrophotography. But there are people, there are different people in astrophotography. For instance, there are people who are in favor of buying equipment. I know some of them, and they buy and buy and buy and buy. They like doing that, so it's their thing, And there are some people liking shooting. For instance, me, I love shooting. You can see it from my photos. I go for 20 hours, 25 hours, 30 hours data. So I like shooting. Of course, I like processing too. And there are also people like you who like processing. And actually, processing can be hobby itself. There are people who doesn't have any equipment. They are not shooting, and they're only processing data from open sources. So
that sounds a great resource.
That's also
that's that. Deep Sky West. There's plenty of observatories that will offer free data sets for you to just process without, like you say, needing any kit of your own. I know other people, Mustafa, that have all the kit, really love shooting, and then actually don't do the processing at all. We'll ask other people if they'll process their data. They just enjoy the imaging. Taking the images themselves.
Yeah.
But then aren't that keen on the processing side of it. So yeah.
But I know that, for instance, when it comes to stacking, you don't like it. For instance, I take time,
I don't.
calibrating and stacking in PixInsight,
Yeah,
like spending 2 days, but you don't like it. So
2
it
days.
all depends on the person.
Yeah, madness. I want to see the image.
Madness.
So,
You,
I mean, I'm normally processing while I'm imaging. So, you know, if I'm taking say 60 images of a whatever target, I'll have stacked the first 10 to kind of see what's in there, and I'll have already started processing it without any calibration or anything, just to make sure it looks right and kind of to start get some ideas going for when I will get the stack. But yeah, I'm not a massive fan. I think a part of the problem, I don't have a lot of processing power. My computers aren't the most amazing, so PixInsight isn't the quickest piece of software to start with. When it's on my computer, it runs even slower. So yeah, I don't have the patience for it, unfortunately. So yeah, in the main, I use Deep Sky Stacker usually. Although I've started using AstroPixel Processor more, and I think that's a line I'm definitely going to go down. I've had some really good results with AstroPixel Processor, and it's longer than DSS, but it's not as long as PixInsight when it comes to stacking. So I think I can live with it for the end result.
And by the way, we have another question from Ilker. He says, what parameters should we take into consideration to choose NB filters except wavelength graphs?
I think your
price,
the speed of your optics.
Yeah, definitely price.
Yeah, the price is up there definitely, but the speed of your optics. If you're shooting, although to be fair, if you're shooting with a Brasser, there are specific kind of high speed filters to account for that, but you probably can't go much deeper than 12 nanometers because of that. But I think beyond that, you know, if you're shooting like most people, you know, in the kind of f4 to f7 range, then you should. Yeah. It is basically price, and I think a lot of it comes down to just looking at example images. You know, it is coatings and anti-reflection and things like that, and that's certainly one of the strong points of the Radiant. It's an expensive filter, but halos are really well controlled. So you do pay for that type of thing. So I'd say look at example images. You know, some people are happy with halos, or it's just a byproduct. You know, I mean, if you've on one of the other reasons I'm not in mono is because I simply don't have the money for a mono camera and all the filters that you would need in order to do it. So yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to finances, unfortunately.
Yeah,
true. It's the budget, yeah.
But you have just spent some money on this Altair camera. Anyways, I was going to ask, how do you deal with the focus? As far as I know, you don't have a motorized focuser, right?
Recently, I do have one for the Red Cat, but I still, to be honest, I still prefer to do it by hand because certainly with the Triad, I think those tri-band filters are quite hard to filter, to be perfectly honest. What you have to realize again is when you're doing your focus routine, you're looking at it's really easy to focus on the O3 of that kind of area because obviously in your bare array you've got one red pixel, two green and one blue. So 3 of your pixels are getting this kind of O3 light, and I've found personally that the autofocus routine and batten off masks as well, it shows that kind of O3 line a lot better. So you end up focusing perfectly on the O3. And I found that my HA can be soft because the kind of the focus is too far like to the left, and so I've ended up kind of doing it by hand, and I kind of know what my images need to look like for them to be in focus, trying to get that kind of middle ground.
You are trying to be between somewhere between O3 and HA.
Yes, trying to get it in the middle to get. So it is something. It's the thing I spend my most time on, if I'm being honest, when I'm in my image routine. Obviously, you know, you set up polar line, but I can spend anything up to 20 minutes making sure that the focus is where I want it to be. because there's nothing more frustrating than spending a night imaging and then you stack it and realize that actually, one of your channels is a bit softer. That's definitely one of the drawbacks of these systems. Obviously, it's not something the mono guys have to worry about, because you're only looking at one spectrum of light and you focus on that one spectrum of light and bang, you're in. But with these kind of multi-spectrums, it's trying to find that perfect point, and it's definitely an art that you have to learn through experience. I think I certainly did. It took me a couple of months before I was really happy with knowing where I needed to focus.
Yes. Okay. So
Right. Another one, or we have Carl Pereira asking, how do you decide how long to image a target?
Yeah, Ben actually answered that question, but for Rose, I know the answer.
I mean, I am trying to get better. I think I'd still class myself as a beginner, perhaps a bit more intermediate now. But I think as a beginner, I want to image everything. Do you know what I mean? I want to see everything. So, and because in the UK, I'll probably get somewhere in the region of maybe 50 imaging nights a year if I'm lucky. Maybe I haven't counted them up, but it's probably about right. Maybe 4 a month, something like that. So as a beginner, do I want to spend, five of those 50 imaging one target to find out actually it was an image that I wasn't really interested in? Or do I want to spend, each night imaging something different to kind of get a feel for? I think there's a bit of getting a feel for what you like imaging. I didn't know I liked imaging nebula until I imaged nebula. Do you know what I mean? Some people prefer galaxies, some people prefer the moon, some people like star clusters. I think as a beginner, just shoot everything, see what floats your boat, see what you like processing, see what you like the look of at the end. So, and it's only now really that I'm starting to think about much longer kind of projects, multi-mosaics and longer integrations. Because I know what I like to image and I know the targets that I want to get good images of. So, I think it depends where you're at. I think I'd like to get kind of 10 to 20 hour images now, because I think certainly at most targets, once you get 10 hours, I think the noise does start to come out quite nicely. But prior, I'd say I've done 2-3 hour images. Are pretty, depends on your skies, but whatever I can get in a night. If it turns out to be half an hour, like in the previous example, then I'll image that. But previous longer ones, I suppose, are Spaghetti Nebula, which can need a lot of integration. That was about an 8 hour integration, which probably was one of my longest, definitely. But more typically, I'd probably say I'm in the 4 or 5 hour range usually.
We have to underline something, Ross. As we were the topic of today's program is wide field and narrowband. So most of the time, first of all, there are not much galaxies for wide field. There are only maybe Andromeda, Triangulum, and maybe a few more, right?
Yeah.
And also for narrowband, these galaxies don't have narrowband data a lot. So maybe, for instance, Andromeda galaxy has some H alpha in it, but only at some certain points. So you cannot image a galaxy with narrowband. You can only add narrowband to your RGB data. So we have to clarify that.
I don't think so. I think you can do it. I've certainly imaged.
Yeah, of course. It depends on your taste. Yeah.
And produce. You can just process your tri-band data on M31. You can process it and image it. I think I've got an image on my feed of that. But it won't look well. It won't look as good as an RGB image with that HA added in. But you can. I think there's a lot of doing what you want. Like I say, don't be constrained by what the images that you've seen before, or what other people seem to do. If you've got a tri-band filter and you want to point at it triangulum, then go for it. See what you can get. you might just produce something that people haven't really looked at or tried to do before. So, yeah, but starting wide, there's not many galaxies really. I typically shoot in the 250 millimeter range, and even at 250 millimeters, M33 is a bit small, to be honest. I'd say it's lost a little bit in the frame, so you're left with Andromeda. But thankfully,
but 200 meter and crop camera would do okay for M33.
Yeah.
And maybe Pinwheel and what was the other galaxy in Big Dipper? Whirlpool. Yeah, that would be
Whirlpool.
Too small. I do have a 400 millimeter refractor, which again is pretty wide, and even with that, it's you're right on the limit. I've imaged both of those, and I've done M81, M82, Leo triplet, and kind of the Markarian's chain in Virgo, but they're not great images. I think you do need to be at probably 700, 800 millimeter minimum to get passable images of those. I think good images. So
yeah. So between March and let's say May, it is the moment that we are not shooting the wide field, guys.
I will go out every night, but it's the time when there's the least in the sky for me to image, really.
Maybe Markarian chain you can go for. Which is
I'll find it tomorrow.
Yeah, which is an awesome target actually.
I mean, luckily for me, being 55 degrees north, I can pretty much still image Cephas all year round. Really, it's lower than you'd like, but it's there. Same with Heart and Soul Nebula. So there's always nebulosity that I can kind of.
Yeah, and there are lots of things there in Cephas. And it's one of my favorites, really. That area. Let's see. So, do you have any idea, or is there any statistics that you know of the clear nights in a year in your region?
I think I mentioned it. I guess at about 50, 60. I don't know is the honest answer. I can only think of, normally when I'm thinking of my kind of filing system, and normally in a given month I might have 4 or 5 different images in there. Obviously, I don't image on every single clear night. Family life and work and things like that get in the way, and it depends what you class as a clear night. If I was to say, if you mean clear night as in clear the entire night, I would probably say a handful, literally a handful all year. But 4, 5, 3, 6 hours, that happens a bit more regularly. So you just have to be vigilant, keep your eye on the weather forecasts, and be prepared to jump out for a couple of hours and get what you can, and then just keep adding it up. So yeah, not great conditions in the northeast of England, but it can be done.
Okay, so I think it has been 1.5 hours already. So we are coming towards end. Guys, do you have any questions? Okan, John?
Yeah, actually, there are also a couple of questions on the chat.
Could you, as most of us probably know, you were awarded this last year, and could you tell us about the also could you show us the photo, how it happened and how it made you feel?
18 and 17. Let's go with 18 first.
I'd say I got. So this was me. So the award I won at the Astronomy Photographer of the Year Awards, hosted by Royal Museums Greenwich. I won the Newcomer of the Year for 2019, so not this year, the year before. And that image there is, I called it the Jewel of Orion. It was a 2-pane mosaic with a Canon. So basically with the setup that we showed you at the beginning. So that was with the Canon 450D.
Yeah.
17,
to
please.
And the Sky Adventurer, Star Adventurer, sorry. So I submitted 2 kind of panoramic mosaics that were both kind of captured with that setup. And luckily for me, they both made the shortlist, and the bottom image won. I was joint winner. We had joint winners that year. So I was a joint winner with a guy who had a Star Trails image from the desert. So a completely different image. So I took this on my second ever visit to a dark sky site, Bottle 3. It is an hour and 20 minutes of integration total. So 40, was it? Yeah, 40 minutes for each pane. So a pretty short stack by most people's kind of standards. Dark skies make up for a lot. So you're getting a lot of a really high signal to noise ratio because you're just not capturing that kind of noise. So this was captured in January. Like I said, I'd started in August. So I suppose my approach was that I kind of perfected my routine with that setup in my back garden when I got the chance, and then realized if I could image in dark skies, I could get much better images. So it was just a case of trying to keep an eye out for when there might be some clear weather. And like I said, this was the first visit. I tried to get this image. I wanted to get this image, but it was too windy. So I ended up getting a 70mm version of Orion. And then the next visit, I got this one. And yeah, like I said, I was lucky enough to win an award for it, which was a hell of a confidence boost when, like I say, you've just started. I spent ages, processing that. Probably took me weeks because it was a bit of because I was still early on. I suppose I learned a lot of my techniques processing this image. So yeah, it's quite a special one for me. Although, yeah, I look at it now and think, yeah, I could have done better.
Yeah, of course. There is always better.
Yeah, always room for improvement. But it's, great. Like, congrats again. So
congrats. I should say maybe some of the audience know here. I don't know if you know this side. You can see the book there. Yeah, here. I cannot show it anyway. So I also got shortlisted this year on Aurora category. It is quite something, It is really an honor.
Yeah, it was great. I was lucky enough. Obviously, it was before lockdown. In the summer of 2019, and it was incredible. There was people there people had literally flown in from Argentina, Australia, the States.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of really amazing astrophotographers. And yeah, like I say, everyone had flown in to kind of get the reward. It was kind of like the Oscars for astrophotography. It was a great experience.
And this year they were saying that there were over 5,000 images that were submitted.
Rose every year.
So it is a lot of number.
Yeah,
it is quite something, So it is something really nice to get an award or even the shortlist. It's just trying to get credit for myself. Yeah, it is quite something.
Yeah. Try again.
Rose, is there an award that you want to get? I know the answer. Be honest.
Everyone would like an AirPod, definitely. I'm no different. That would certainly be a very nice thing to get. But I don't think it can be the reason why you do it. Do you know what I mean? They're nice things. I never shoot an image and think this is an AirPod. This is the one I'm going to get an AirPod for. I always think about it after the event. So, I'll process an image and think, I'll submit this one. I quite like this one. I'll submit it. I think it's got to be that way around. You've got to enjoy doing what you do. And then, if you want to submit it after the event, then great. But it can't be the driver for why you go out every day. So yeah, but it certainly would be a nice thing. but personally, I'd rather, it would be really great to make, you know, the shortlist for the main awards, for that award ceremony again. You know, like I said, that was a newcomer award, so it would be nice to kind of progress on to the main categories. I think that would be great as well.
Yeah, so they already announced the new competition.
Yeah.
So have you already planned which images you will be
Not
submitting?
yet. No, I'm a last minute man, so I think it closes in March. So I've got plenty of time to think about it.
Yeah, yeah, it closes in March. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe last few questions. What is your ultimate goal in astrophotography?
I don't think I have one, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think, you know, I think it's just to continue enjoying it. Do you know what I mean? I find it's been a great hobby through lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your real kind of direction, something to kind of focus on and kind of have a creative output, which I think a lot of people have missed during lockdown.
Yeah.
So I feel really lucky. I've been able to continue doing what I love doing. You know, there's plenty of people, you know, if your thing is playing football for a local team, then, you know, you haven't been able to do that for the last year probably. So, you know, I guess it's just that, to continue enjoying it and to continue producing images that I like to look at and, you know, share with people. So yeah, it's certainly not to kind of, my ultimate goal is to get 5 AirPods and all of this. You know, that would certainly be a nice thing.
that would be good to have 5 AirPods. But still, yeah. But is there I mean, is there the ultimate image that, you know, you're dying to take it?
No, I suppose, like I said, a recent direction to start moving is looking at mosaics, which is not something I've looked at a lot of in the past. Although, like I said, that those two images that were shortlisted were both mosaics. So it's, but after that, a lot of my images are kind of single, and that's because of the environment that I'm in and that I like to produce final images on a given day. So, like I say, I've imaged pretty much a lot of the things that are available to me to image. I know what I'd like to image. So yeah, I'm kind of still in the planning process for kind of mosaics that I'm hoping to produce over the next year or so. When the targets are back around, because like I said, we're already starting to get to the end of nebula season, really, and moving towards spring and all those galaxies being around. So yeah, and it's kind of just starting to be a bit more, to plan a little bit more. You know, in the past I've probably been, it's clear at night, what am I going to image kind of mentality, which is great. You know, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, of course.
I'm just trying to kind of plan things out a little bit more. So when it is clear, I'm like, right, I know I'm going to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, so Ben says the ultimate goal, not to sell the house for a scope.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. So have you ever traveled for astrophotography, Ross? Have you ever been to somewhere?
Not beyond.
Is there anywhere that you want to be?
Yeah, I mean, my dark sky site is like 60 kilometers up the road, 50 kilometers up the road in Northumberland, so that's quite lucky. But I'd love to go to Chile or kind of see some of those. Well, yeah, Turkey would be great as well. But I think what I like about the idea of Chile is obviously you get a lot more. You've got some of those southern hemisphere targets as well as the kind of guys. It's that kind of definite, ultimate kind of destination, isn't it? Like say, I think Turkey, you know, wherever there's dark skies close at home in Europe would be good. The Canary Islands have a kind of possibility as well for, you know, because as a family, as you know, with the family, you've got to kind of try and tie these things in. So if you can, you know, rather than just shipping off yourself for a week without the family, if you can bring your family for a summer holiday somewhere and you can kind of do a little bit of sneaky astrophotography in the evenings, then that's all good. So trying to combine those two things together, which Turkey is obviously a great summer destination for people in the UK as well. like say, or the Canary Islands. Yeah, I think there's some good opportunities around.
Yeah. Emre is asking, ever traveled abroad to a distant country just for taking a shot? That was actually my question.
Yeah,
And
I would like to, but not at this. Like I say, I've got family, young children, so yeah, this is very.
Can we go to number 2 on slides? Apparently,
sure.
you don't need to go. For instance, for an aurora borealis.
All right, just give me a second. Just jumping on. Yeah.
Okay, so aurora borealis in UK.
Yeah, it's pretty. I'd say I don't think it's that rare. It's rare for me because I've never seen it before. This is a first for me, so I just happened to be at my dark sky site on Wednesday of this week, Tuesday, Wednesday this week, and when I got there, the northern it's a Bortle 3, but the southern horizon certainly isn't. There is a large town in the distance that you do get a light pollution glow to the south, but to the north there's not a lot of anything, and I could just kind of see this faint glow on the horizon and wondered what it was. So grabbed my 6D and took a little snap and realized that it was aurora. And managed to kind of scramble down onto the beach and get this image, which is like a 20-second exposure. I'd say combination. This is a mosaic. I took one for the beach and one of the sky to get a little bit more in there at 35mm. So this is 35mm with a full frame camera, like I say, double height pretty much. So it kind of covered quite a bit of covered a lot more of the sky than I thought it would in the UK. We're at 55 degrees. We're not that far north. It only, we don't get it like obviously you see in the Arctic Circle where it's overhead and things like that. It just doesn't really. I think you can get it that strong in the UK, but it's very, very rare. So I was overjoyed with this and kind of getting that reflection in the water. I thought was a really, really nice shot. So yeah, I was really pleased with that. Really pleased to see it.
Yeah, and it is a very recent one. So it is.
Yeah.
Wednesday
Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning. Very 2 days old. I was really pleased.
No, it was on Monday because you told me yesterday you did something for the first time, and I was like, "What?" It's an awesome shot. I really liked it, and you may get an upload with this.
I doubt it, but
there are rocks on it.
There's it's a lot of rocks in AirPods. So you never know. That might be the secret sauce.
We are going to ask that secret sauce to our next week to our guest. So we will know more about that secret sauce. So I think we should get to the end. Your last words.
Cool. Thank you very much for having me. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm on Instagram as AstroPhotoRoss. I have a website as AstroPhotoRoss.
We have all the links in the description below. Cool. Yep, no problem.
If anyone's got any questions or anything else they want to ask me about, feel free to reach out on those platforms and I'll get back to you, no problem.
Yeah, he's a very friendly guy.
Yeah, definitely.
He is. So thank you very much, Ross. And it was really nice to have you in the first shot. And that we were sorry for the last week, but it is what it is. It was my computer acting up. So thanks so much being here. And of course, I'm sure many people will follow you right after this. We are not many left, 17 people left, but still something. And I leave it to leave Okan to the last words because he has not talked much and he loves talking.
Yeah, do I? No. Okay, man. First of all, it was a pleasure to have you here. I'm saying that honestly, and I'm sorry, I was like looking all the monitors for the live stream and I couldn't participate a lot. But I would love to have a longer time to chat with you and the others. So if you guys have any questions at all, you can always ask us or ask Ross anytime, and you can add us from Instagram, Facebook, anywhere you want. Yeah.
And
That's pretty much all, actually.
Yeah, and maybe I can say a few things. So these broadcasts will be every week if there's nothing wrong. And every week we will have a new guest. And every week we will have a new topic. For instance, this week we spoke about wide field astrophotography with narrowband filters with color cameras. And next week we will be talking about broadband filters. So if you are interested in astrophotography, of course, narrowband filters and broadband filters and color cameras are really important to start with. So please follow us and tell your friends who are interested in astrophotography to watch us. And we will, of course, be waiting for your comments under the video so that we can improve ourselves in terms of everything. And thanks for watching us. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the reminders and notifications. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
For
Thank
being
you all,
here.
guys.
Thank you.